connected in to a proper partnership, which isn't dependent upon charismatic leadership. It isn't dependent upon the school down the road where I know the head. It's actually schools coming together who have the right balance of giving capacity and taking capacity. Of course, the reality is that BEP will mature and go through another phase, which will be probably around quality assurance and wider networking whilst you get the speed and the impetus into it. But I've always said that one of the reasons why one of the pieces of evidence that I think we should look at in 5 years' time of whether the RSC structure is working is whether it's still needed or not. Because if it becomes purely a regulatory body, then we've got something wrong. If it's a resource around commissioning and support and challenging better behaviours and standards, then it's got a role to play. And I think in that respect, organisations like BEP and others like it across the country have a massive role to play in the next 5 years because the system isn't mature enough yet to do it itself. So there won't be many in this room or even people not in the room who won't get the value of collaboration. But if you think about what real collaborations look like, it's been about the last, I'd say 10 years, but in reality it's probably shorter than that. So in the evolution of our education system, this is still a very immature model of working. My hope, however, is that those people in schools and trusts who are not heads at the moment, but are middle leaders or becoming senior leaders for the first time, are growing up in a culture where collaboration will be the norm. And that's what will cement that future, I think.
Steve, what about you? What's your response to that?
Great question. Okay, so first of all, I'm of the belief that too many vulnerable children are falling through the cracks in the system, and that you have mats here, groups here, individual schools here, and it's not a coherent, joined-up approach in the interest of the child. It might be in the interest of the school or the map, but not in the child. And I also think that that isolation is the enemy of improvement. And whether you're an isolated school or an isolated mat, it's still the enemy of improvement. There must be a need for an organisation that helps to make sure that every child is supported and make sure that mats are part of something bigger. And it seems to me that Birmingham is a clear case for being a city that people should be proud of and be part of and bigger than just their own mat or their own school. Especially with a Birmingham Education Partnership, which isn't just about school improvement. It's about mental health issues. It's about well-being issues. It's about the arts and citizenship. It seems to me that we should be proud and enthusiastic to be having something that's school-led that helps us to see the bigger picture. And I would hope that that would be how BEP continues to help to join things up in the interest of the child, in the interest of moral purpose, and the interest of challenging isolation, especially when BEP, in my view, has a moral purpose at its heart and it's a charity, isn't trying to empire build.
Can I push the question back to you, Pat? Because you're one person whose name I know, but not just because of that, because I know you've been involved in BEP for a long time, from the inception. David's model says that schools need to be capacity givers or capacity takers. And I think you said every single school. And they need to do that. Tell me, what would you ask of David to get more schools being capacity givers? Those that are capable of being capacity givers. What would you ask of David to make that happen?
Well, I wasn't expecting to answer my own question, but I don't think we can do it on our own. I think that's probably the main thing, whether, I mean, even as BEP.
Is it a challenge to get those schools to do that giving?
There is still, you know, whether it's isolationism, as Steve referred to, I don't think it's necessarily an I'm all right, Jack kind of approach. You know, I don't think it's as hard-nosed as that.
I agree.
But it's people are under financial pressure, or
They're too busy?
They're too busy, or they have SLEs and they were out a lot last year and the results slipped on 2%, so they need to have them back in this year. No, we can't help anymore. You know, it's often because of nerves and worry about it. There is also a worrying movement. This is a personal opinion. I'm not representing BEP, I'm going to say that. There's a personal opinion. There's a worrying movement that there is, to be honest, some predatory behaviour, which I personally think is disgraceful, but it also is bad for the system. So I think we need the support from outside through yourselves, through Chris as RSC, and etc., to hold the conversations with those people and guide and cajole and nurture them towards what true collaboration means.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we've got several others wanting to come in now. Yep.
My name's Paul Roberts. I'm lucky to work on the School Improvement Advisory Board, and I do some school improvement work. And I used to be a head. And what you said, Dave, about the 60% really struck a chord with me. And I think it feeds into what you've just been talking about. And I think it's probably BEP's biggest challenge, the 60%. Because I think there's really good stuff happening at either edge, if you like. And it made me think about the first 2/3 of my years as a head, when I wasn't one of those participating. I think towards the end I did, later than I'd like to have done. And I thought, well, what stopped me? And I think there were two things, and I agree with lots of the other things, but two things that I think stop people is, am I good enough? Have I got something to offer? And outstanding badges don't do that for you, believe it or not. And an awful lot of people who have got something to offer don't think they have. And I think another one is, what's flowing back? What's the benefit? And I think you often hear people say at events like this, you get as much from going out for your own school as the school benefits. Absolutely true, but I don't think we've articulated it well enough. Just to offer an opinion on that, it came to me that the real benefit wasn't pinching ideas, which is the one you people usually mention. It's that it really sharpened my ability to evaluate. Really sharpened it. And then when I came back in to my own place, I could see the wood from the trees.
Who else wants to chip in on this theme, getting these capacity givers? I'll come to you first and then you, all right? Do you want to say your name first?
Yes, Azita Hardy, Nelson Mandela Primary.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was just a comment, a bit of an answer to the question that you put.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree totally in terms of, I think as leaders we're often quite humble, so we don't like to sort of push ourselves forward sometimes. We need a little bit of promotion. But I think one of the other things in terms of what would help us, I think it should be something you're doing, but it's just raising the morale and raising the profession. I think there's that fear that if you support somebody and it goes wrong, that's your career gone, social media, etc. So I do think there's a lot needed in terms of morale and making leaders feel valued. And that's not just in Birmingham, because I think in Birmingham, I think we do feel valued. I'm talking more sort of nationally. So I think things like that make a difference. I think obviously funding, because at the moment capacity givers are losing their capacity to give, because the staff that have been our givers are now in class doing things because we've had to lose staff because of budgets.
Okay, we'll have one more contribution on this, and then I'll ask David to say some words about what he thinks he might do to get this culture going.
Yeah, Steve Taylor from Robin Hood. I'm just interested in how you reconcile sustainable growth within the system when there's a need for quite a rapid collaboration of schools, and where we're hearing more of a picture now where small mats need to merge and become bigger. How do you make sure that those mats and small group collaboration of groups are actually holding true to their beliefs and their unique selling points? What assurance can you give that they hold a steady hand and not start looking around and trying to grow really quickly because they're just worried about preserving their own organisation? I'm interested in that because it's an ever-changing sand, isn't it, in terms of growth?
So we've got two themes there, David. One is what do you intend to do to at system level help this culture where people feel safe enough and valued enough and able enough to be capacity givers. And then the second theme, the one about how do we retain ourselves if there's growth going on.
So I'll take Steve's question first, if that's okay, although they're not unrelated,
No,
I think. So there is an appetite for growth in the maths system at the moment, which at times I think is unhelpful, because I think it's predicated on growth because it's a means to sustainability rather than better standards for kids.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that I and Chris in this region has to be able to do is to just tell the difference between the two. I was in a meeting with Lord Nash last week, and we talked about, we're just over 7,000 academies now. It'll be probably up around 7.5, 7.6 by the end of the year. And the question he put back to me is, could you accommodate another 500 academies in the system without approving another MAT anywhere in the country? And the answer, I think, has got to be yes, isn't it? Because otherwise we end up creating another 50 MATs of 2 or 3 schools. That's my first answer. My second answer, I suppose, is, isn't it a better ambition to be the best MAT of 3 schools in the country than on a journey to want to become a MAT of 5 or 6 schools? And the question that I keep throwing back to CEOs and to boards as well is, your growth plan has got to be predicated on the answer to this question, which is this, that if you are going to take another 2 or 3 schools into your trust, can you do it without harming the educational impact of the kids you've already got? And it's a really difficult one to answer, because the answer, of course, you'd like to say is yes. And I'll say, how do you know? And it's about the systems and the culture that underpins that. So I do think that's a really important part of it. The challenge with the MAT merger question